Hello, everyone. Welcome to Saturday Morning Lounge. My name's Anne, and I'm here with David today, and we're going to talk about comics and Wonderworld. So, hi, Dave. Give me a little
Dennis.
Dennis. Sorry, why did I call you
I
Dave?
don't know.
I don't know either. That's weird. Anyways, Dennis, tell me
Yes.
about Wonderworld Comics.
Wonderworld Comics was kind of the natural progression of my life as a geek.
Hmm.
You start off buying comic books, and then at a certain point, you have a ton of them, and you convince yourself, "Oh, someday I'll be able to sell these." And it's
Yeah.
not just a hoarding of comic books; it's an investment.
Hmm.
So at a certain point, you have to kind of put up or shut up, and you open your comic book store. So for me, it was one of those situations where I started selling at a very young age. My mom didn't have a lot of money, so if I
Hmm.
wanted to get more comics and get more toys,
Yeah, just sell what you had.
I had to sell what I had, or I had to
Mm.
go out and get jobs. And I was that kid who always took my mower around and asked people if they needed their yard mowed. And in the winter
Mhm.
time, the second the snow hit, I had grabbed a shovel and went out and tried to shovel driveways for $5 a pop. And back then, you could
Nice.
get a pretty good handful of comic books for $5.
Yeah.
So, I was always kind of that guy. And
Mhm.
then when I went to college, I got a call that a lot of people get,
Mhm.
which was, "Hey, get all this crap out of the basement because we're selling the house."
Oh no.
And I'm like, what am I going to do with this?
Mhm.
And so I had all my childhood toys that I wanted to keep.
Mhm.
Um, and I said, okay, well, what am I going to do with these? I took it to a secondhand store in Ann Arbor called Kaleidoscope,
Mhm.
and I sold my shoebox full of Star Wars figures for $110.
Whoa.
And I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
okay. Then I found out later it had some of the rarest figures in there, and
Oh, no. It was probably
so it
worth a lot
was.
more.
But I was like, well, my buddies have all the same crap in their
Mhm.
basement. When I go over to hang out at their house, they got the same stuff from their childhood. And we're all the same age, so we got all the Star Wars and GI Joe. So it started really fast for me because like I was buying my friends' toy collections
Mhm.
and just flipping them. And before you know it, you've got your comics and you got your toys and you're flipping and you're getting all this cool stuff that you always wanted, but
Yeah.
didn't have the money for it. So you're basically paying for your collection through selling. And then you kind of get to a point where you're like, oh, do I even need this? Somebody wants to buy that. Okay, I'll sell that.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, it's like, do you even have a collection anymore?
No, it's just
No, you're
all
selling.
it's your
You're
inventory.
it's your inventory. And little by little, that kind of I kind of only wanted to sell the toys because I didn't want to sell the comics.
Mhm.
And then at a certain point, you're like, well, why not sell some comics? And then why not sell some sports cards? Why not sell some Hot Wheels cars? Whatever it is, you kind of expand to what your knowledge is, and you don't get too far out into the ether.
Mhm.
And then 1996, I was doing something called toy scalping.
Toy
I
scalping.
never even heard the name of it other than like,
Mhm.
some people it's called you a toy scalper. And this guy from the Wall Street Journal called me and wanted to interview me.
Whoa.
And I'm like, yeah, it was kind of cool. So I'm like, yeah, sure, come on out and I'll show you what. So he flies out and he follows me around for 2 or 3 days and he's asking me all these questions. And uh, he literally at dinner one night was like, Dennis, can I tell you something? Last week I was sitting across the table from a CEO of a $1 billion company, and the week before that I was sitting across from this financial officer for this other $1 billion company, and they all were worth millions. And you're the only one that isn't kissing my ass. And I'm like, oh, well, was I supposed to? He goes,
Right, it's just like reality check.
yeah, yeah. And he's like, no, no, no. It's just refreshing that
Mhm.
somebody with your thing has kind of is happy being at your level. I think you could, if you were doing anything else, you would be a millionaire at this time. And I think I'm 25 at that time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you're still pretty
Yeah.
young.
So 1996, June 26, 1996, I get a phone call at like 3 in the morning. Hey, this is Joe. Just to let you know, your story is going to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal tomorrow. Have fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
My phone rang off the hook
Oh
for
my
like a
goodness.
month. I did interviews, TV interviews, radio interviews. I was around the world. People were calling me from around the world because it's the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I'm sitting across from this guy.
Didn't think anything.
No, just, hey, let's have fun. Let's talk about toys, blah, blah, blah. And it changed my life. And a short period of time after that, I had a kid. And, there was another job in between. I was the booking agent for celebrities.
Oh, that's
sign
cool.
autographs. So we traveled around the world, meeting all kinds of celebrities and hanging out and getting drunk every night.
Nice.
And my now ex-wife, then wife, said, yeah, you're not going to go do all that when we have the kid. I'm not going to stay at home. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I got to figure out something I could do
to be a family man,
to raise the kid and still be able to do what I do, which I did on the road, do at home.
Yeah.
Comic book store. So my son, Alex, was born in 2003. The end of 2003, 2004, we kind of just did our thing. In 2005, beginning of 2005, I opened Wonderworld Comics in Downriver, Michigan. So that was great. My son, I got to spend every day with my kid. Then my daughter came along, and eventually I got divorced, and I still had the business where I could take care of my kids and run a business and make it the family business. And then, you just kind of move from here to there. We went from Taylor to Lincoln Park, now down here in Monroe. But yeah, it was just that the comic book store is like the umbrella for geekdom.
It is.
It really is.
Any geek knows that's where you go to meet the coolest people, and that's where you go to hang out.
And if you want to get magic cards, you go to the comic book store. You want to get Pokemon, you go. That doesn't say Pokemon store. It doesn't say magic store. It doesn't say action figure store. Doesn't say, t-shirt store. No, it's comic book store. So comic book stores are like the umbrella for all of geekdom. And I love that about that. And there's really only 2,000 of us in the world. There's only 2,000 comic book stores in the world now.
Are you insane?
No.
What? That is crazy. I never thought it was that few.
Yeah. And I mean, there's about 40 per state, 50 states, 2,000. When we get together, it's like, you're hanging out with people from California, from New York, from Texas, from Florida, from Milwaukee, and we all have the exact same stories, the exact same odd character that comes in, the exact same, and it's like there's a really kind of real close brotherhood, sisterhood.
Yeah, it's like a family reunion when you guys hang out.
It is. And of course, the last 2 years we've been deprived of that, and the second we see each other now, it's like huge hugs and high fives and all that, and it's great.
So what do you think makes the comic book world so much different than, say, like booking promotions like you did before?
Well, let me start with the what the comic book world is. So in 1986, now, for all of you kids watching, 1986 is the year they just had on Stranger Things.
Yes.
So imagine being in Stranger Things season 4. Or is it 4 or 5? 4. Yeah.
4. Yeah.
I didn't know there was a thing called a comic book store. I was in a little town in Decatur, Illinois, called Decatur, Illinois. We didn't know there was a thing called comic book store. 1987 comes around, and there's this little movie called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, which one?
The Lost Boys.
Yes.
And do you remember when Corey Haim goes into that comic book shop on the boardwalk there in Santa Cruz? Well, think about what that movie actually. Let's peel that onion for a second. Corey Haim, new kid, new town, doesn't have any friends.
Exactly.
He goes into that comic book store, and the Frog Brothers, Corey Feldman and the other guy, I don't know his name. All of a sudden, they're like, "Is this kid a poser? Or is this kid real?"
Yeah.
And so they quiz each other, and they talk.
Then their own little code.
They got their own little, and then guess what? He's one of them. He's accepted. He's into the tribe. Because that's what kind of that our geekdom was back then. You weren't cool back then. You were the one that get in the wedgie.
Exactly.
So when we found another one of us, we took us in, we took the other ones in. So that movie to me was so instrumental for a lot of reasons. It spells out what I think is the ethos of a comic shop, which is just inclusivity and everybody's welcome and etc. And hey, let's all share our geekdom.
Yeah.
But it's also, there's a place where you can go.
It's like a safe haven.
Exactly. It's like sanctuary.
Yep.
Sanctuary for geeks. No wedgies here.
I like that. You need a sign in your shop now.
No wedgies here.
That, yes.
Good. You know, because I still hear people say, you know, you're getting a wedgie for being a geek.
What? That's still a thing.
It's still. It's more of like a carryover thing that some people still just remember. But what I really think, and later it turns out, and shout out to my my homeboy Joe Ferrara, Atlantis Fantasy World. That was his comic book store. Really? And he is called the godfather of comic shops. He runs the Eisner Retailer Award for comic shops. He is like the old school, you know, the OG everything for comics. And when I met him, I'm like, oh my God, I'm here as a retailer because of you and your shop in that movie. And we talk about it, and you know, and of course that shop actually burnt to the ground or collapsed when they had the big earthquake in 1989 or 90 out in Santa Cruz and San Francisco area. So that is, for lack of a better word, kind of that touchstone. Just this toy selling geek, and I hooked up with this one actor who played Admiral Mahdi, the guy that Darth Vader chokes in Star Wars. Nice. And his action figure had just come out, and I was finding toys, and I found his toy because he could get. I could only sell it for like $20, but he could get $50 by autographing it. So I was selling them to him for like $10. I was getting them for $5. I was doubling my money, and then he was getting $40 profit by signing his name on them. So, yeah, and we're drunk, and we're in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're sitting out on this patio at like 3 in the morning, nursing the last drink because we couldn't find any more alcohol. And he's like, hey, Dennis, why don't you be my manager? Be my agent. And I was like, what? I don't know anything about doing that. He goes, you sell my toy, right? I go, yeah. He goes, well, sell me. And it was like a light bulb that just went off. And you know as well as I do, when you know how to sell,
doesn't matter what it is.
It doesn't matter what it is. And it was almost a challenge for me. Like, yeah, you know what? I just sell toys. Now I'm kind of selling this character, this actor's, you know, wares. And then it also goes back to that Wall Street Journal thing. The guy's like, if you're doing anything else, you'd be a millionaire. And I'm like, yeah, because I know how to sell. If I was selling anything else, but you know, I get bored. I don't like to do the same thing for too long. You know, and this guy comes along, and before you know it, he's sitting there introducing me to and I got him like 3 gigs within like a month. Because he wasn't thinking where he should go. He was looking at, I want to go here, I want to go here, I want to go here. And I was like, yeah, but what about here, here, here? And he's like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I'm like, yeah, let's do something. And before you know it, he's introducing me to all of his friends that are actors that he knew. And before you know it, I had like 20 clients. And I'm traveling all over the world. And I'm like, oh, wow, I can do this. And then once again, when Alex was born, I...
Calm down.
Yeah. Like, hey, you ain't going around doing that. So I retired from that business, opened the comic shop, etc. But it you know, and I've seen it, you know, if you know how to sell, you know how to extrapolate a marketing plan. Like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then this person's going to show up, and then I can hand sell them that. You know, it's just a skill that a lot of people don't have.
But when you do have it, you either focus on doing it for you or focusing on doing it for somebody else too.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are like, let's focus on doing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Rather than work for somebody else and not be appreciated.
Exactly. That's how most of the time when entrepreneurs come into like any business field, like that's what they got sick of the corporate life and they just want to do it for them.
I was like 23, 24 years old. I figured I don't need a real job. I can do this. This is just as easy to make the money doing this. And then after the Wall Street Journal, it was kind of like,
you're like, see, got it.
Got it. Got this in the bag.
So what was your last corporate job then?
I used to run the campus film series for EMU.
Really?
For Eastern Michigan when I was there. I was the air staff director for, I actually did more not stuff in college than I did in college. I worked as a bouncer at a bar.
Nice.
I delivered pizzas. I worked at McDonald's.
So you had all the typical jobs that everyone else
that
has.
a college kid would have. And then when I was basically looking at, when you're in college, you're looking down that road and you're like, oh, there's graduation somewhere over there. What am I going to do? And I was going to school for radio, TV, film. And I was talking to people who were actually in the radio industry, that they'd come and visit and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, hey, in jobs? Oh, yeah, we got board op jobs. And I'm like, I know what a board op job is. That means you're working at 2 a.m, working for some drunk a-hole. Can I curse? I can curse?
Yes.
So some drunk asshole.
Yeah.
Who's been in the DJ business for 20 years. And he's going to show up drunk at 2 a.m. to do his overnight shift. And you're going to have to board op him at 3. And if he passes out and falls over and you have to jump in and do his job for him, you're still not going to get appreciated.
No.
I know people that I graduated with and people that graduated after me, and they never got that job. They never, and they're still trying. And so lucky for me, 1994, I'm kind of doing this. I'm having fun doing this toy thing. I can go away on a weekend and go to a convention and I could make X amount of money. And 1995, I remember I made $3,400 at one show over the weekend. It was a Transformers convention. And I was like, incredible. Oh yeah, and at that time, that's the most amount of money I'd ever held in my hand. It was, it was impressive. And I was sitting there going, and at that time, I think it was like $4 an hour minimum wage.
Oh, wow.
That time, I think like $320 checks. That's 10 times one of my paychecks working a regular job.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that college graduation job looking at me at the end of that, and I'm looking at
what you already have.
1995, $3,000 in my hand. I was just like, Dad, no, there's no way I can
go back.
No. So I walked for graduation and I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal a month later. And
so incredible.
Yeah. And it was just kind of all kismet in 1996 that you don't need to have that slave job. You don't need to put that collar around your neck.
No.
Yeah.
Not
unless
at all.
you want it.
Yeah. Well, then there are some people that like that.
There you go. Exactly.
That's someone else's thing. But when it comes to, like you said, you were going to touch on the record like industry as opposed to the comics, how it kind of is parallel in a sense.
Well, yeah. So I hit upon this. I like to philosophize about my mediocre job, because I think if you take any job, you can figure out a life lesson that you can get from it that's bigger than what it is. I mean, even working at Subway, you could figure out how to, like
Zen, you find the value in your 9 to 5.
Zen in the Art of Automobile Mechanic or motorcycle repair. It was a famous book about how a guy took the philosophies of a Zen and being in the studio, you can kind of see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And he was like, and here's motorcycle repair. And here's how Zen and motorcycle repair are so alike. You could do that with a job at Subway. You could do that with a job at an auto factory. And I kind of was like, okay, everyone should predict the death of their job. You know, they should predict how it's going to come.
Yeah.
And as I talk with my retailer friends, we're all like, oh, it's going to come this way. Oh, it's going to come this way. And I said, no, you know what, guys? I think there's a business model that we need to. I remember there was a documentary called All Things Must Pass. It was about the documentary of Tower Records. Have you seen this documentary?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love it. It's such a good one.
Brilliant. And as I was watching that on a plane to San Diego Comic-Con for a giant retailer summit, I'm watching this. I'm like, holy shit, this is us. This is
that's where it's going. Yeah.
And when we got there, I started extrapolating it along the way. And before you knew it, I had the solution. I already figured I'm one of those guys that could take A plus B and get Z.
Nice. So it's fast.
And I figured out, and it didn't hit me until actually several years later, just up the road here in Trenton. There's I think it's called Slick Vinyl or Slick Disc or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it's a record store.
Yeah, I think
right
it's
across
Slick
from Dairy
Disc.
Queen.
Yeah.
Okay. So my daughter and I went in there to go get some Prince CDs. And I haven't been in a record store for years.
No.
This was packed. There was like 10, 15 kids in there.
You're like, what is this?
I'm like, something's going on here. I didn't know. I'm always paying attention. Where's something buzzing? Where's the action at? And I start talking to the guy. He's like, oh yeah, man, it's been great. Like last 5 years, vinyl's just been huge, and old vinyl and new vinyl and used CDs. And I've been saying it for years. And I even watched that documentary and I was like, I'd already figured it out. But now I had a spot where I could point to and go, yeah, I knew it.
You're like, this.
It was what I called the hippie record store. And do you know what I'm talking about when I say hippie record store? Okay. How old are you?
I'm 30.
30. Okay. So literally 30 years ago, when I was in high school, when I was graduating high school in Brighton, Michigan, there was this little head shop out on the edge of town. I can't remember the name. It was Sweet Dreams or something like that, you know, and they sold records, and the guy would always have old records playing, and he sold bongs, and he sold incense. And I'm sure if you had $20, you could buy a bag of weed in the back. And he had the black light posters for sale. And I was like, how does this place stay alive? Well, a lot of people buy paraphernalia, you know, but I put all these things, A, B, C, Z. That guy was part of that Tower Records story. Remember when at the beginning, when they had one store?
Yeah.
That was that one guy. You know, every town had that one store.
Yeah.
So when records started, and I mean, records have been around for a long time, but when records really started, Elvis Presley, 1950s, you had to buy records at the store that sold record players. That was the electronic store.
That makes sense.
Okay. And then you would buy them at the little 5 and dime, you know, like Kresge's, you know, Kmart. You would buy them at, well, there's always this one guy out on the edge of town who was the little oddball guy, and he would sell the weird stuff that like the other guys didn't sell. Well, in the 60s, that guy became real popular because he was selling the weird shit that all the kids wanted to listen to, where, you know, you couldn't get Frank Zappa
at like Sears or anything.
No. Sears wasn't selling the crazy shit. The hippie record store out on the edge of town, where the guy lived above it. It was usually like a 2-story building, and the guy lived above it, and he'd come down in his flip-flops and his cat. He'd let his cat walk around the store. I'm painting you a picture. I hope you're understanding.
I love it.
This guy is a real guy. And in the 60s, he sold all the weird shit, and he sold the same paraphernalia, you know, and you didn't know what that little, you know, that little clip with the feather on the end of it was, you know, if you were a normie.
Yeah.
But if you smoke weed, you knew, oh, that's a roach clip. Okay, cool. Or, oh, what's this? What's colorful pipe?
They're just like, oh, we picked this up because it's decor for you. And
so
like, yeah, no.
let's plug that into that documentary. 1970s come around. Tower Records like, oh, hey man, Discos, let's expand. Let's go get one in here and one over here.
All over.
Well, and then Kmart comes along and they have a record section.
Mhm.
Then the malls come along, back to Stranger Things.
Yes.
The malls come along, and then you get places like Sam Goody,
Mhm.
and you get in this area Corvette. You get, Tower Record,
Mhm.
gets a big location in New York City.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, but the record store guy, he's still out there, but he's got to sell the records for 99 cents and they're selling for 79 cents. So his sales go down, but he's still selling the head shop stuff and he's still selling the blacklight posters.
Yeah. He's still selling his
Right.
other goods.
Right. Exactly. So the 80s come around, bam, huge explosion. Tower Records everywhere. They go to Japan.
Mhm.
Virgin Records starts up. They go to New York to compete with Tower Record. All of a sudden, every mall has 3 record stores. But then the 90s come along, then Walmart, and they start selling them dirt cheap.
Oh yeah.
And then Best Buy, they start selling them dirt cheap. Okay?
Mhm.
You get with me? Now, those Corvette level places, they start going out of business because they can't compete with,
Nope.
and then I remember there was a lot of the record stores also started selling the tickets.
Mhm.
So they would make a little bit of that Ticketmaster money
Yeah.
for selling the tickets.
That is a throwback. I haven't thought about like stores selling tickets in a long time.
Yeah. So there's this whole confluence of all of these events, but then you watch that documentary and then it all crashes with digital music.
Yes.
With Napster and digital music, more,
Yeah.
the industry was like, why are we still putting this shit out on vinyl? We could just sell a download for 99 cents and say done with it. Or we could sell a subscription service like Spotify. And then boom, 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 everything starts closing.
Mhm.
There's no Tower Records. There's no, boom, boom, boom. But guess what?
It's coming back.
No, but guess what?
Hmm.
That hippie record store was still out on the end of town. He's still selling the head shop.
Yep.
Then one man, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people, but one man came forward and said, hey guys, you want to listen to my music? I'm releasing it on vinyl. Jack White.
Really?
Jack White
he was
single-handedly was the guy that was pushing everybody to buy vinyl again. And then one step away from Jack White, and
I was about to say everyone just starts piling on.
Everybody starts like, what? We can re-release vinyl? Who's buying vinyl? The kids. The kids are buying vinyl. And like, what? I remember when I went into Flashback the first time, you had a big section of
selection,
vinyl.
Yeah. And it was always the teens coming in.
Yep.
Like I have a set of, you probably see them around the mall all the time too. We have a set of teens that come in and they want the older stuff. They want the older comics. They want the older vinyl. They want the grunge shirts and like all of that.
And part of that, and I'll get to that in 1 second too.
Mm-hmm.
But the hippie record store was still there, and he still had some used vinyl, and he still had his head shops, and he still had his, like Slick Disc. They still sold the incense and the incense burners and the candles and all the blacklight posters. And then Jack White tells all the kids, hey, go buy my new, you can only buy this on vinyl. What? And then all of a sudden record players that were in Salvation Army for $5 are like $200 on eBay.
Yep.
And it's like overnight. And that's what a comic shop is going to have to do, because as paper gets more expensive, as hiring writers and artists get more expensive, and as comic shops start slowing down,
it's going to take the same form.
It's going to take the same thing. And digital has already taken a big chunk out of it. And I told all these retailers, you need to fight digital. Like Tower Records should have fought digital. Oh no, Dennis, you're crazy. So that leads me to the Wonderworld that I just opened up. Yeah. And if you've noticed, there are no new comics in that store.
Nope.
It's vintage.
That's why I like going there.
I wanted to open a 1990s nostalgia comic store.
I love it.
We sell 80s and 90s comic books. The covers are so much more vivid. We sell a lot, some new merchandise. We sell a lot of, but for the most part, I'm hitting on all those 90s nostalgia, tones. Action figures, Beanie Babies.
Oh yeah, you got all the collections in there.
Yeah, Pokemon. And once again, it's the umbrella, so you can put it all under there. And it's what I think every comic shop needs to start kind of transitioning to. Because if you're only doing this new stuff when the new stuff is gone, and when the big companies stop making the new stuff, what are you going to be running on.
Yeah.
You're kind of like a marathon athlete who doesn't have the marathon, and you are still trying to eat sprinters. The same amount of food, but you don't have the marathon to run it off with. You're that's a horrible analogy, but you get the point.
Yeah.
You're working on a fuel base for this, and you need to be transitioning to this other
So
thing.
do you think that in business nowadays, do you think people niche too far down? Because everyone always focuses, oh, you have to choose a niche. You have to choose a niche. So like just comic books.
Let me hear what you think.
I personally think that they're narrowing everything down too much because like you said, it's an umbrella. Like nerdy geekdom is going to cover everything. So the fact that you're using that as like a business model is perfect.
I have lived by one philosophy for over 30 years. And I share it with everybody, too much so, because everybody hates when I say it. Bruce Lee had the greatest quote of all time: "Be like water."
I like that.
Bruce would be asked, "Oh, well, are you going to lock yourself into doing martial arts this way or this way?" He's like, "No, be like water." Water can fill any vessel. Water can, if you have if you put water in this, it turns into that. It turns into exactly that. You turn it sideways, it's going to do that. You put it in this, it's going to do that. You put it, anything. You got to be like water because you have to fill what the customer wants. The customer is the vessel. Okay. There's a point, your store doesn't even have to get locked into one form. I told the kids that work for me, I'm like, look, this wall is a living creature. If we're selling more $2 comics, then let the $2 comics flow up. Let the $5 comics flow shorter. Make it, if you got to move it this way or that way. If people shop from the left side of the wall more than the right side of the wall,
you adjust.
Just be like water. And I think so many retailers are like, no, I want them to buy this, so I'm going to put it right in the front. You know what, man? If it's not selling in the front, then it's not selling. Move it to the back. Move something else to the front. Be like water. Move here, move there. Wherever you got to move it, keep moving it. And and I don't think I ever told you this, and I should have. So I went to Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim.
Yeah.
And I went to the Disney store on the first day we were there, because you can still go to the Disney park on the outskirts. You don't have to pay a Disney admission to go.
That's good.
They'll let you come in and spend your money.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's nice.
That's so kind of them.
So nice of them. And the first day I'm sitting there, and there's a stack of three of these toys. And I'd seen this toy years before, and I was like, "Oh, I like that toy." And I spotted it, and I'm like, "Wow, 3 of them! I should come back and buy those and put them on the pallet and ship them home whenever I'm done." And the next day I came in. I went there 3 days. The next day I came, there's only 1 of them. I'm like, "Damn, Star Wars dorks! They took 2 of them already. I better buy this one." Fine, grab this one, and I go up and buy it. And then I came on the 3rd day.
There's a whole bunch more out, wasn't there?
No. There was the 2 from the first day. Were 3 aisles over on the bottom. And I'm like, and I recognized one of the dings on the corner that when I looked at the first 3, it's the same one. And I'm like, hold on. Somebody's playing a game here with me. Hey, little Disney employee, I need to talk to a manager. Sir, is there a problem? I go, yeah, no problem. It's a good thing. I just need to talk to the manager. Manager comes out, and I'm like, okay, look, told him the story. First day, second day, 3rd day, here they are. Oh, we have an entire team that resets the store every day.
That makes sense.
And they get to move the merchandise wherever and whenever they want. If they want to take it off the floor and put it in the back for a couple of days and then bring it back out, they get to do whatever they want. They don't work here in the store. They come in after hours. And he goes, and you know why? Exactly why you bought the one on the second day. If somebody's here for 2 or 3 days, they might not see it here,
but they'll see it somewhere else.
See it somewhere else. And you saw that 2 were gone, and you bought the 3rd one, and you didn't even. And guess what? You didn't see the 2 from the first day over 3 aisles over. until the third day.
Yep. And then you move them back.
But if you didn't, and I'm like, oh my God, this is genius.
See,
that's my water philosophy at work from Disney, the greatest company in the world that owns everything.
See, I used to get that a lot because every time you know how much I rearrange that store. I was constantly like moving every day.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why do you move it around so much? I'm like, because there's so much stuff in here that not everyone's going to catch it on the same day.
Right. Exactly.
Like
and it looks fresh the second time they come in. I had a woman who came into the new store. And she saw an X-Men hoodie, and we had had the hoodie on the mannequin, and she'd actually come by a couple times, and I'd seen her, and she was eyeballing that X-Men hoodie, and after a while I took the hoodie off the mannequin in the front window, and I put the Hogwarts hoodie on there, and I moved that hoodie inside and put it up on a hook, and she came beelining it in like the day or two after we moved it. Like, oh, did you sell the X-Men hoodie? I go, oh, no, you know what? It's up here now. She goes, okay, you know what? I better take it before somebody buys it.
Yep.
That was the impetus because it moved.
Yeah.
And she noticed that it moved. But she really wanted it. But if it had still sat on that mannequin,
she probably wouldn't have bought it.
She never would have bought it.
Nope.
And that's what it comes down to is you've got to, sometimes you got to nudge the customer.
You got to get in their brain and their psychology of shopping and stuff.
Absolutely. But it's like, be like water. You can't get locked into, no, the $80 X-Men hoodie has to go on the mannequin in the front window. That's the only place. No, dude. And I tell the kids, move it wherever. I don't care. Move. Other than comic books, you want to keep them in alphabetical order, but
Yeah.
But actually we did that. We tried that for a month. We weren't selling a lot of X-Men comics. So I said, you know what? Nothing says we have to leave all the X-Men on the bottom shelf by X. No. Why don't we move the X-Men up above A? Let's move everything else down. It didn't sell that many more X-Men comics.
But you tried.
We tried.
A for effort.
But I proved the point that it's not, the X-Men aren't selling because they're on the bottom shelf. They're not selling because nobody's into X-Men right now.
That's true.
Because there's no X-Men movies on the screen.
Nope. Second there's any type of movie on the screen, it affects sales. It really does.
And I'll tell you what, the first month we opened, nobody was buying Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange 2 comes out. Guess what? We start selling all the Doctor Strange.
It blows up.
Yeah. So it's be like water. Don't get locked into anything. Know your customers. I know it sounds cliche, but I mean, it really is just that simple sometimes.
I think that's a lot of business, which I think people fail to see is just common sense.
It is.
It's really like there's a whole bunch of fancy words that can be put towards it, but business at its core is just common sense.
Well, and it's when you have to admit your failures. I want to have a price point for every person that walks in the door. So I literally have a dollar bin right when you walk in of like junky toys and action figures and
your dollar table. I love
McDonald's toys, which cost you $1 if you go to McDonald's now. And like those little Beanie Baby McDonald's Beanie Babies, the ones that are too cheap to sell over on the thing. But so, and I hate to admit it, but I didn't think our store and Monroe Mall was going to be the big, we're going to sell a $60 thing here. We're going to sell a $100 thing here. And I just kind of put a couple $100 things in and a couple $50 things in.
You never know.
We've been selling some decent things to the point where it's like, wow, I kind of thought we should just be that cheap place. But there's enough people buying enough stuff that, I'm going to bring some more high end in.
Exactly. I mean, it varies because there are some days where it's like empty and there's maybe $45 in sales, and then others I sold like a $400-500 antique carriage.
Right.
Like it's insane the things that people come in and buy, but you never know your market when they're coming in because you can't sell out of your pocket.
Right. Well, and
that's a huge thing.
So I don't know if you want to touch on, kind of the postmortem for Flashback at all.
Oh, we can a little bit.
Okay.
So basically, we did end up closing our storefront for Flashback. A multitude of different reasons, but now we're focusing more on just the core business stuff. So like the interviewing, the getting help to small businesses where you need it,
right?
And basically the education that should be available to anyone out there.
I always tell people are like, oh, I hope I'm not bothering you with too many questions. I'm like, look, dude, education is free, man.
Yeah.
The first caveman, and this is a thing I used to do on the convention circuit. So
oh goodness.
This is a good one. This is a good story. You're gonna love this one. So I used to, I go out to the smoking area and smoke cigarettes, and somebody would always come up at the convention and they go, hey, you got a light? I'm like, yeah, here. I go, wait a second. Use that. All right, now hand it back to me. Do you know how civilization started?
Oh, you went deep in the smoking section.
Yeah, this is, hey, you got a lesson when when you went out for a smoke around me. I'd be like, civilization started when the first caveman who figured out how to make fire passed that fire on to another caveman and taught that lesson to another caveman. And then those cavemen would go off and teach people how to make fire. Those cavemen would go off. Before you know, it's a whole civilization of people cooking their food and creating civilizations and protecting themselves in the dark. And it all started with that first caveman. And the whole time I'm just holding the lighter. I'm just holding the lighter, talking to this guy. And the whole thing started with one caveman passing the other caveman fire. And now I hand you this. Next time you have two lighters in the morning and you're going to the convention, put both of them in your pocket and do the same thing.
That's such a smart idea.
And I've had it's gone around, dude. I've done it to other people and they're like, dude, you did this to me 10 years ago.
You're like, I'm still doing it.
I'm still doing it. And guess what? Here, where's your lighter? Where's your lighter? You're still asking for a lighter. You should have two lighters in your pocket to pass fire on. Go, be better.
I like it.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that old movie. I think it was in the 90s, Pay It Forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I love that movie.
Yeah, no, and it's except for it's Kevin Spacey. Isn't he in that one?
Yeah. He is. It's a trigger movie, that's for sure. But the point of it, besides the point,
it's a good practice.
It is. It definitely is.
No, and for that's why I love to talk to young entrepreneurs. I talked to you when I first came over to the mall, and I loved what you were doing. It's sad to see a business like what you were doing there. And later I'll talk. There's things I think you probably could have done better, and then when you take that implement to another genre, but
exactly,
you're definitely a very organized person and very organized, educationally, is that a word?
Or just make up words now. It's okay.
Yeah, it's cool. I think that there's definitely something, and I know you're definitely gonna try again because you're too smart to not. And you've learned a lesson. 30 years old.
Exactly.
I learned a lesson. I did 30 years old. I put on Transformer conventions for 3 years. The third year, total fucking disaster. Let's see, that was 97, 98. 98 was a disaster. I was 27 years old.
Oh, goodness.
And I didn't do another convention till 2010.
Oh, wow. So you definitely had a break in between there.
Yeah. But then that convention went way smoother. I ran that one for 3 or 4 years. Then I was like, yeah, okay, this isn't for me again. But the thing is it's a cliche, but when you fall off that bike, you got to get back on. You got to get back on. Yeah.
So is there anything you would recommend to any other young entrepreneurs out there who want to start in business and want to make it a success? What would you say the biggest lesson would be for them?
Just do it.
Just do it.
It's really funny because my
Nike
buddy,
commercial in here.
Yeah, no, it is. But it really is the most simple. I mean, dude, what are you waiting for? Just
dive in.
There's a million places to do a million things, and the only thing stopping Gary Vaynerchuk. Do you know who he is?
Yeah,
Gary V. Gary V had 3 lessons that I learned in a very quick amount of time. It was like all within a week. I just started. I deep dived on this guy for like a week, and the first was one is better than none. First lesson: one is better than none. When he first started doing his wine videos, that got him beginning of his famous. His dad ran a wine store, and he started doing wine videos. One person watched it.
That's something.
5 people watched it. 10 people watched the next one. 20 people watched the next one. 5 people might have watched the 5th one, but one is better than none. If you're sitting there right now listening to this and you're sitting on your ass and you've got an idea, you know what? Pick your phone up. Put your phone on camera mode and just shoot the video.
Just do
it. Doesn't cost nothing to just do it. One is better than none. The second lesson that I learned from Gary Vee was he was talking to a NASCAR guy. And this is, I don't know NASCAR.
Sports ball. So it's
sports
okay.
ball.
I'm right there.
Exactly.
It's sports ball.
And he was like, dude, why aren't you doing a video for your fans? You've got 100,000 Instagram followers or whatever the number was. And he's like, oh, I know, you know. He goes, no, you don't know. Go. What did you do today? Oh, I was pittering around with the timing belt on. You go, turn the camera on. Just record that. Tell people what you're doing. One is better. And then he didn't say it, but I'm thinking one is better than none. You know? And he's like, yeah, you know, I was talking to my wife about, you know, I'm doing my NASCAR accent. Does it sound like it?
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to my wife and I was thinking maybe we should have her set up the camera and bring some lights. Like, no, you're missing the point.
Just do it now.
Just do it now. Just do it now. And that's where the just do it. And then Gary Vee blew me away, like all within this 1 week. And it was a summer, like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. He turned a camera on in his $150,000, $200,000 SUV, his Cadillac Escalade or whatever he drives around in. And he went out with like 3 people that he has on payroll that are probably making $100,000 a year being his marketing people. And he went to garage sales in New Jersey. And he's buying Beanie Babies. He's buying Thundercat toys. He's buying Nerf guns. He's buying manga. He's buying it's Gary Vee goes garage sailing. He's got a dozen of these videos. They're the greatest videos you've ever seen. But this is a billionaire. This is a billionaire, self-made, well, other than his dad owned the wine thing. But where he's at right now and the lessons he's teaching you is the money's out there. If you got $5 in your pocket, you can get on a bike and you can go garage sailing from garage sale to garage sale. And if you take your phone out and start looking this stuff up, you can buy a $5 thing that make you $20.
Yep.
And then you take that $20 and you buy a $20 thing that makes you $50. And then you take that $50 and you buy 10 $5 things that make you $500. You know, it's it's hustle. It's basically Gary Vee, you know, telling you
how to hustle.
Look, I'm a billionaire. I don't need to go take down a little old lady's fucking, Nerf gun collection. But he gets more enjoyment out of haggling that little old lady down from $40 to $30 on her 10 Nerf gun collection. That's her grandkids that she's selling in a garage sale. Then he does haggling $5 million off a $10 million deal.
That's awesome.
But when you see a guy like that doing a thing that I did to get where I'm at, you realize, dude, you're never too old to start this stuff.
No.
You're never too young to start this stuff. You know, I got kids that come up and haggle me on 15-year-old kids.
Oh, that cracks me up.
And they come in to haggle me on a Nerf gun that I sell in the store or a Pokemon card. And I'm like, all right, kid, you have no idea what I'm going to do right now, but I'm going to give you a lesson in haggling. And I haggle with them. I allow them to haggle. I don't need the kids $20. I don't need the kids $15. But I want to teach this kid a lesson in what he's doing is actually what he should be doing. And I remember the dad, I just had a Nerf gun sale. And what was it? No, it was a Game Boy Color. I had $75 on it. And the kid and the dad, I don't know if they're trying to hustle me, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this. And the dad's like, hey, kid's got 47. Can I throw in 20 and we get it for 67? And I'm like, oh, what do we got here? Oh, color. Oh,
You're like, that's a tough call right
it's
there.
a tough call. I really can't. I got 75 on it. I'll tell you what I'll do. If you can get it to 70, I'll totally do it for 70. He's like, okay. And the kid really wanted it. I could have been a dick and just like, nope, sorry, it's Game Boy Color. I can't. I can't go to a store and buy more Game Boy Colors.
No,
they either come in or they don't.
Exactly.
And then it's a kid. Kid wanted it. Dad coughed up an extra 3. Everybody's happy. But that kid learned
that you could haggle,
but also that Dad couldn't just haggle it to the price he wanted.
Nope.
You got to re-haggle.
I think that's the biggest thing. There was an instance where it was my sister working the counter, and usually with depending on the vendors, if they set firm price, we kept it there. There was a guy who wanted this album. I think it was actually a Prince album because it was still framed. And he's just like, oh, well, you have it marked 40. And he's just like, I got a 20 here, right in here for you. And like my sister's like, yeah. So
yeah, call me when you get the other 20.
Yep, pretty much. It was hilarious.
I get that all the time.
I
get that all the time. In fact, I think I have one on my phone. This is a good one here. Hold on. I'll read this off to you.
It's great.
No, it was really hilarious. The guy was, where is it? Is this it? Yeah. I know 150. This is a $250 comic book. Okay. I know 150 is a low ball, but I really want this for my collection, and that that's all I can afford. He had a lot of scrambled letters in there right now, but I have to have this graded, LOL. Then before I even got a chance to reply to him, I'm not a reseller, just really want to have for my collection. And then he misspelled collection and then sent collection. And then he sends a 4th email. Please take the 150 prayer emoji.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, oh.
At least he addressed that he knew it was worth more, and that was already a low ball offer.
And then I was like, I'm not even dealing with this. I just hit decline.
No.
It's $150 decline. Guess what? Within 2 minutes, he sends me a $175 offer. At that point, it's like, it's a $250 comic book.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, I probably paid nothing for it in the first place.
Yeah.
But on general principle. You just said 150 was the lowest or the highest you could go. And then you immediately countered at another 25. And then I realized he's from my hometown of Decatur, Illinois. And I'm like, look, you're from Decatur. I love Krekel Burgers. That's you have to know. If you're from Decatur, you know.
Okay.
It's like the hot dog place down here in Monroe. And if you're in Monroe, you know the name of it. If you're out from an outsider, you don't know.
Yeah.
I go, just for my love of Krekel Burgers, I'll do 200, but that's as low as I can go. Cha-ching! He bought it instantly.
Oh, of course. That's usually.
But I took him from 150 to 200. And he said 150 was the highest he could go because it was for his collection.
And that's just it, though. There's always, if there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
It's pretty much.
I look at it like, dude, I literally gave this guy $50 for amusing me with his back and forth, and then getting an extra $50 out of him was worth me taking $50 less.
Nice. It balanced out.
Exactly.
So since you run a business and do all this other like conventions and stuff, what does your typical Saturday morning look like then? Do you have a typical one?
I'll tell you what. I don't have a typical day. To me, Saturday,
just another day.
It's just another day. Monday, just another day. I've had bad Saturdays. I've had bad Mondays. I've had great Mondays. I've had great Sundays. I had a mentor. I've had a lot of mentors. They didn't know. Half of them didn't know they were mentoring me. I just listened to them, and I listened to every word they said. And this guy, Al Kaplan, Inkworks Studios. He owned Inkworks Studios, which was the people who did all those card sets for like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Nice, yeah.
He got all the autographs from all the celebrities and all that stuff. But before that, he owned video stores that renting movies. And Blockbuster was moving on all of his territory. So he literally went guerrilla marketing and took on Blockbuster to the point where Blockbuster could not bankrupt him, and Blockbuster bought him out.
What?
Across the Eastern Seaboard.
That's insane.
I think he had 13 stores. But so he did this retailer summit presentation. He's like, all right, How many of you people are closed on Sunday? Raise your hand. All right, leave them up. Leave them up. Leave them up. Leave them up. Goes, all right, how many people are closed on Monday? More people would raise their hand. Goes, okay, how many people are closed on Tuesday? Tuesday's a dead day in comic books because new comics come out on Wednesday. I know. How many of you closed are on Tuesday? And more people raise their hand. How many people are closed on any other day of the week other than Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday? A couple more people raise their hand. Goes, all right, all you people with your hands down. Look at all these people with their hands up. You're smarter than all of them people. And I'm like, yes. I love this guy. I love this guy. He goes, you don't get to pick what day your customer wants to give you his money, his or her money. You don't.
That's 100% true.
You got to be open 7 days a week if you want their money. Because if they come in on a Monday and you're closed on a Monday, you ain't give their money. Nope. And they'll take their money someplace else. And guess what? You're training them to not come back to your store. Now, they're not going to remember, oh, that's right, they were closed on Mondays. How many times have you decided you wanted a Chick-fil-A sandwich and then you start driving towards a Chick-fil-A and you're, oh, shit, it's a Sunday.
It happens to me a few times with few places I like to eat. And I'm like, dang it. And I'm
or Michael's or Hobby Lobby or whatever. If even when you know they're closed on Sunday.
It doesn't register in your brain.
It doesn't register in your brain. Nope. But it registers in your brain, they'll spend your money there.
Yep.
And see, and it's training. But you can't train your customer. Your customer needs to train you. And that's what Al taught me was, and then when, like I said, eventually you're open 7 days a week. You just treat every day like it's, I mean, like I said, I've had big Mondays. I've had big Sundays. I've had dead Saturdays.
What the conventions, is that usually the more busy day though?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is everybody usually can get Saturday off. So conventions are almost always on Saturday. So yeah, I mean, obviously if you're going to convention and it's a Friday, Saturday convention, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're going to have to bring your game on Saturday. But like I said, you know, I've been 30 years in this, going to conventions. It's like convention. Oh, okay. Other people are like, oh, no, that must be so exciting. You know, it's like, it is.
The setup, the tear down, all of it.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And then, you know, on Sunday or on the last day of the con, and you're sitting there and you had to wake up early to get in there to open your booth, and it's a busy day. And then at the end of the day, you've got to, count the money, box everything up, put it on the truck. Oh, it's all in the truck? Yeah. Oh, we got to return the truck by tomorrow? Oh, so it means we got to unload it tonight, don't we? Or it's the first thing tomorrow morning, don't we? Oh, this sucks.
That just sounds awful.
So yeah, there's downsides to everything.
Well, that's good though. So do you have any upcoming conventions you're going to be at? Yeah.
So my kid's favorite convention is a show called C2E2 in Chicago. I think it's August 5, 6, 7. It's downtown Chicago. We get to go to all of our favorite restaurants, but there's tons of anime voice actors there and people selling cool stuff and, you know, all that. So that's my next big show. But then locally, we've got Monroe Pop Fest. And that's September 16 and 17, I think, or 17 and 18. I can't remember. But it's at those 2 days. And it's every year it gets bigger and better. So Gary and his whole crew do a fabulous job with that. They put on wrestling events around here. And, you know, I just love participating in that.
It's a fun bunch, that's for sure.
I love the other thing is I love not having to put on the event.
That's true.
You know, and that's
so much work behind the scenes.
So much work. You know, you saw what we did for Free Comic Book Day. That was a pain in the ass. And that was just one day of just handing out free comics. Imagine a whole weekend. No.
Couldn't do it.
So good on Gary and his people. I love working with them and I love doing their show. So
that's awesome. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you today. Is there anything else you want to recommend to any of us business entrepreneurs out there?
You know, believe it or not, not really. You know, I'll kind of sum it all up with whatever just do. If you got an idea, just try it. Yeah. Just do it.
Doesn't hurt anything.
One is better than none. If you've got a way to do a forum like this, just do it. Let people hear what you have to say. Let your voice be heard. Teach. Even if one person learns something from you, teach. I mean, I'm a very busy man. I'm not trying to like just brag. I've got like 5 things I got to do.
You're always on the move. You're always on the move.
But it is so important for me to help you, to help people that are listening to you, that I will literally stop my world of doing all these other things for my kids, for my friends, all that. And I just get to that point where you stop your world, or more importantly, stop your laziness and try something for you that'll help you and your kids and your family and your friends. Do it. One is better than none.
Be like water.
Just do it. Be like water. All of these lessons anyone could take and put it into anything. And if you do something you love for the rest of your life, you'll never work a day in your life.
I love that. That's awesome.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This was Saturday Morning Lounge. We didn't give we touched on it a little bit. We're usually sponsored by Flashback Antique and Crafts, as well as Brain Jerk Entertainment Company. So it has switched up a bit. So we're mostly focusing on the Brain Jerk Entertainment Company, as well as all the other members in our co-op. So I do want to make a shout out to Gary with the Monroe Pop Fest that's coming up. And then next week, we will kind of start advertising all the rest of the stuff that's going to be coming up on Saturday Morning Lounge. Thank you for tuning in, though.